Hey, Cole here, and welcome to today's video. What we're going to focus on today is essentially the system I've put in place for my business and a few others now that is essentially a cold outbound lead generation system leveraging AI and a handful of other systems to generate me leads pretty consistently on an automated basis each month. Now, for myself, I've personally been averaging 10, 15, upwards of 20 leads a month. And so I'd say on the average, it's around 15 or so booked calls that I'm receiving on a monthly basis regarding my services, which has just been great because it provides me a consistent influx of leads that I can have a conversation with, do some scoping, see if we'd be a good fit for each other. And if everything goes well, then either A, I could implement the system that I'll be showing you today for a couple $1,000s, or I'd be able to go through and help them with something else. So, as you might already understand about cold email, it's a quantity-based game, but can be optimized with high quality or targeted lead generation and enrichment. So, let's just take a moment and talk through why use. First off, an outbound system that you can do on an automated basis, but also why you should be using AI to help you go through and do it. So, when you're using AI, you're going to have increased efficiency and productivity. So first off, by leveraging all of the cool tools such as Make.com, Flowwise, LangChain, or if you're going to do more specific action-based automations for email or outreach on LinkedIn, then that'd be things like Instantly or Phantom Buster. You're able to just do thousands of tasks at an extremely affordable rate, way easier and much less mentally demanding than actually having to go out in front of them on a one-to-one basis, right? So another great thing, we have consistent outreach. I don't know about you, but if I had to do this on a consistent basis and actually remember to do it, I just wouldn't. So having a system that's in place that is optimized is so vital here. And so that's really the direction I'm always looking for. Another cool thing here is the personalized and targeted outreach. Now, the targeted aspect is something that we will do ahead of time. The personalization is done in real time, at least on a one-to-one basis for our leads, which is awesome. It allows us to be far more personable and unique in getting in front of people and opening up doors for us that we couldn't, if we're relying on our own mental capacity to create something unique to connect to each individual person. If we let AI help us do that after giving it some training, it ends up doing a damn good job. The next one is scalability. Unlike a lot of other things, again, we have a threshold of how much we can do on a daily basis, but the scalability of this solution is so awesome. So much more effective than us trying to do this on a manual basis or even just handling cold email 100% by ourselves, right? Even better, we get data-driven insights, a lot of it cool analytics there so that you can see what you're getting versus the industry average or how you can go through and improve that. And of course, obviously, it's a cost-effective solution. I'd say I spend a couple $100 a month, and it ends up generating me, a couple thousand, $10,000 a month pretty consistently, not including just the growth opportunity of generating new projects, conversations, and interactions with other people. So how does the setup work? Now, we'll do a quick walkthrough here, and then we're going to go and do a full deep dive and going through all of the steps here. So I hope you're ready to sort of lock in, so to speak, as it's going to be a pretty in-depth walkthrough, but I'm sure it's going to help you out a ton. So again, setup configuration. For this specific setup, there are other setups using other platforms such as Flowwise and LangChain, but I think the one that's most beginner friendly in a sense, or if you're just wanting to have something to help get yourself started, but technically still quality. This has already been in place on Make.com. I think it's a great solution. It's very cost effective. It's way better than Zapier. I would say Zapier to me is probably like my least favorite of those two ecosystems. But the ones that we generally play with the most are going to be things like Flowwise and LangChain. They allow a little bit more customization, more scalability, different cost efficiencies. There's so much more that we have at our fingertips when we use those more in-depth tools. However, to get you started and just to sort of help you get an idea of what's really possible, we're going to use Make.com. So we got Make, we need OpenAI's API integration, we need Instantly AI, and we need Phantom Buster. If you want to end up working and doing this system for more than one sales rep, you will need another tool. I do this on a one-to-one basis, so Phantom Buster is fine with me. Automated outreach, again, we're going to need to have an idea of what we're offering, what we're pitching, who we're pitching to. And we need to generally have some type of idea of how we want to follow up with these people. Now, I'm going to present you guys the solution that I have in place. You can sort of copy and paste it. I recommend you customizing it because you're probably not selling the same thing I'm selling. And even if you are, you want to probably customize it to the type of work that you've already done for yourself. And then, of course, keep in mind what we're doing here is you want to be able to be ready to do a little bit of monitoring, a little bit of optimization as we go through. So once you implement this, it will take like a month or so for it to be properly warmed up. However, you'll be able to get yourself started after a week of getting your email accounts all warmed up if you don't have one warmed up already. So let me show you the whole process, and then we'll dive into all of the lovely goodies. Are you ready? So what we have here is one of three little ecosystems. Now, I broke it out into three different categories because it gives us much more depth and optimization than we would get had we put it all in one specific place. Now, what this allows us to do, this first one, is to use Phantom Buster, search for the specific types of leads that we're looking for, and then we use it and extract that data. We simply copy and paste that data into Google Sheets, and we make sure that if that lead already exists, we don't overwrite it, and we just simply keep building out our massive lead list, so to speak. So that's all this one's for. So it's about how do I go on LinkedIn, scrape the data of my targeted accounts, put it into the Google Sheets, and we'll dive into each one. But I want to give you the full view before we go into each aspect, just so you get the gist of why we're going from one thing to the next to make your life easier. Then another one here is once that sheet, this one here, has had the row added, we're now looking for the change in that drive. And then we're then going to search for that new row. We're going to make sure the name and the company has been formatted correctly. And if the company already exists, right? If the company name exists, we go through and we try to use that name to enrich and identify an email to that person. And then if the company name doesn't exist, we then try to use their domain name, any other basic information that's on their LinkedIn to then try to find and then enrich the email. Again, really the goal in this second one is to enrich their email data. So again, between both of these, it was step one, we're finding the person on LinkedIn. Step two, we're enriching their data. And then if we have a validated email, they get sent over to number three. Why is this important? Well, first off, we want to make sure that if we're going to be emailing them, we also can get in front of them on LinkedIn, so that way we can do a multi-pronged approach, right? When it comes to sales, the most important thing is not just outbounding effectively, doing so without being spammy, but third is if you can do the other two well, you want to have a good amount of touch points. And well, what's an easier way to get more touch points? It's going to be going on more platforms. So that's exactly what this helps us do. We'll be able to email them cold as well as sending them a LinkedIn message after building a connection. So again, when once these emails have been enriched and validated, we then receive a webhook. A webhook is basically just a system that is looking and receiving data. There's a bunch of different factors we could use it for, but in this instance, it is waiting for data to be sent to the URL and says, hey, this is good. If so, if the email is valid, we then send it through the rest of this. So then we push it into Instantly. Right? So you're sort of seeing how we've put all of these systems together really quickly, right? We start with Phantom Buster by leveraging Make, pushing these automations through. If everything goes well, then it goes over to get enriched. If the enrichment is good, then it gets sent over to Instantly to add that lead into our campaign. And then we go through and update our customization. So this is where we're able to add in some unique variability on the lead. And what this is how we'll be able to make it super personalized to each and every person. A, based on the email, and B, based on if we're getting in front of them via LinkedIn. So we have custom outputs based on some data and sets here, and we'll go over that in a minute. And then once that stuff's all done, we'll be dropping them into our sort of master lead stock so that we know that they're ready to go, they're primed, and we can initiate the process of getting out in front of them. And so then here we make that final push into Instantly saying, hey, okay, we've uploaded the lead. Please add it to said campaign and let's get them out in front of them. So what's some of the results so far? Just, I think it's always nice to see what's possible here. I believe it's this one. I just want to show you guys, some stuff that's happened in the past so you guys got an idea. So this one here, this is the LinkedIn Outbound one. Again, we've sent out these profiles. 26% of these people have accepted our requests. And then from there, we're able to do outbounding to them. And then I can manage those relationships on LinkedIn itself. Second, we have Instantly, where we've been able to create a bunch of different campaigns, but just some examples here over the last 4 weeks playing around with just one of our campaigns. We have other accounts as well that we use, so it's not just this one, but we've gotten in front of 252 people. We've averaged a 52% open rate, which is damn good given the industry average is sitting between like 20 and 30%. So we're doing pretty good there. There's no click rate because we don't actually have anything we want people to click to. Our primary focus is getting replies and starting conversations. And opportunities here, we don't use this platform CRM, so this isn't relevant. But again, we get a pretty good reply rate of people that are interested in connecting. And as you see here, we've had 15 replies so far, most of which have been some type of interest around our product or service and wanting to go forward. Okay, so how do we do all of this? Well, let's just start from the get-go here. So again, we're in Phantom Buster. Oh, by the way, I want to mention what I will do is I will actually download these files and I'll show you. I can export this blueprint. So everything you're watching today, you'll be able to get access to for free. All you got to do is simply click on the links, make sure you access them. I might just drop them in like a Google Drive or a Notion page or whatnot, but it'll be fairly accessible for you so that you can, if you want to follow along and use the exact sort of process, you'll be able to. All right, so we have here is Phantom Buster. So first off, we need to go into here and we want to go hit add Phantom Buster. We want to get a Phantom. So that'll be here. Once we've done that, we can then connect to getting a Phantom. Hold on here. We'll be able to connect to get to a Phantom, and the one that we already have in here is Agency. Now, if you don't have this, how this works is we will go here. As you see, this is the Phantom that I was running. And what we're going to do is we'll create our LinkedIn, our Phantom Buster account. And we want to use LinkedIn, and we want to come down to scrape profiles and scrape leads. So search export. Here we go. My bad. So use this Phantom. How this works is it looks to your LinkedIn account, and you can give it a search name. However, I recommend coming here for a LinkedIn search URL. So what I do, we go over here to the search, we put in, whoever you want to get in front of, say marketing agency. And then you want to go through target people, second and third degree connections. It's important because you want them to likely already have some type of connection to you in some way, shape, or form. If you've already been fairly established on LinkedIn, makes it easier to get approved connections. Make sure you have the location you want to target. If you want to be more local, say your region, say your state, your city, your town, your village, or if you want to just target everyone that you can think of under the sun, power to you. I prefer it also being English for the language that I can connect with. And then I also come down here and look for different services that people have. So again, maybe I want to target someone's on the consulting side, right? Some of this, right? So I would then hit show results. Great, this brings me down to 8,900 people. So what I have here is I have this list. I can copy this domain or this URL and then paste it here, all right? And so if I want to double up on this, it's simply this, boom. So now it's gonna look for marketing agency for this LinkedIn search URL. Then it's gonna go here to launch. It's initializing the phantom. Now, this is going to go through and start trying to do this automatically. But what's great is now that we've set this up, we'll be able to actually call it in the list here. And it's going to take a minute. But as you see here, boom, there's that one we just put together. So we'll hit OK for now. And then we want to go here and make an HTTP request. And essentially what this is doing is we're going to use Phantom Buster's API. And it's saying, hey, Phantom Buster, I want to get this. I want to get this section. And then I want you to call out the folder and the results from here. As in, I want to grab the CSV file, right? So if you see over here, it says export all leads. And it puts it into a CSV. That's essentially what we're pulling by using this structure. And so we're making a GET request, because guess what we're doing? We are getting something. And then we're going to then send that data through. And so what we like to use, we want to use an iterator, because what an iterator does is it helps to then take inputs or data. It's a very easy way to then separate the data on a line-by-line basis. Think of how you use Excel, and you have columns and you can associate names to those columns to make it much easier to understand what type of data is where or where it should go. And that's essentially what you can use this for. You can either use it to help to segment out single lines, to break out text, to parse data in some way, shape, or form. It's many, many different things. So in this instance, we are then going to use iterator. We are then going to search a sheet. The reason we actually search a sheet first before we try to add the row is what we want to do is for it to pull up essentially that sheet, just like we were just saying. We want it to pull up the desired sheet we want to send it to, and we want it to go, what are all the columns, right? Because if you just try to add the data there, it might not be able to present to you the rows or column sets that you want to assign first name, last name, company, LinkedIn profile URL, what have you, to, right? And so as you see here, this is sort of the structure. So do your connection with Google Sheets. Again, you can just simply come down here, hit add, search up Google Sheets, and then we're searching rows. So we open it up. I already have a Google Sheet I want to use, which is called extracted LinkedIn profiles. This here is the sheet name, right? Because you see it says sheet 1 there at the bottom. And then we want to check that the table has headers. Of course it does, because we gave it the naming convention. And then we want to see if name equals full name. What is this name in this bracket here? Well, this here is equal to this. So this is Phantom Buster. So then what's happening is each iteration, each person, right? It's going, hey, is Zach Phillips, right, equal to a row in Google Sheets? If not, then input this data, right? So it says if that name does not exist, it's then going to go through and add the following data. So this is here like the hard import of that sheet. And it's essentially allowing us to get straight in front of it. And then, of course, we got to do sheet 1, provide all the data, import it, make sure everything's nice and clean, and then go from there. All right, so once I've gone through and successfully implemented all of this, the new row has been added. We then can start looking at number 2, because number 2 is really important here. hold on here. I just noticed that my camera has been going in and out all day. It's just been a thing, all right? So number 2 here, what we're looking for again is we're looking to watch for the leads that come in, make sure that they've been updated, and then we go through and push them through a platform called an email finder. We're going to dive into the fun details of this so that you've got all the fun goodies so you can do it yourself. So what is this? So this is Google Drive. Obviously, what we need to do is we're going to create a piece here that says, I want to watch for files that come into a folder. So again, just to give you an example, we want to go to our Google Drive. And then we'll say my drive, right? You create, a folder, right? I mean, I don't know. We'll just choose this one, right? And as you see here, it has all this, like it has this coded, you can have this name, right? So what's cool is we shouldn't have to use it, but if we need to, we can. So as you see here, it has these little plus signs where I can just simply select like, oh, I want to target a deeper part of here, right? I've already sort of done the filtering, so we can come back and then we can, where are you? I believe it's this one, right? Drop sheets here for lead gen. So essentially how I have this set up is I have a single Google sheet that all it's looking for is, hey, when it's watching by modified time. So when the time changes, as in a new row is added, aka it got modified, it's then going to run this automation, which is great because this way we know that this whole filter, this whole automation is only going to run if it finds something in the first place. And then it's going to just do one at a time. And we want it to only do one at a time because we want it to go through, parse all the data, make sure it's clean, and then move to the next one. The good thing is that it moves at a very fast rate, so it's not a big deal. So we have it set up there. We then are going to do the same thing we did prior, where we're looking for the file, right? We're searching for rows. We're searching for that file, okay, that is here, right? I don't need to put this in because make is already capturing the file ID, right? I can click in here and you can see it says file ID there. Again, we need to make sure we're calling the right row. As you see here, it says sheet 1. I'm gonna get down, put myself in that corner. It says sheet 1. If the name isn't the same, it's not going to come up with any data. So try not to mess with it. Just know it's sheet 1. Do the same thing. And then you don't have to put any filters here. So I just like to have a wide range of column sets here, and we can go through and approve the rest. I have a little filter here that says if it's already ran through and it equals to yes. And I want to show you that here. So I have a column here that I put a row in. So what this tries to do is to prevent any reruns of the same data sets that have come through. So as you see here, we have all of this. So we have all these leads that have come in that we need to have the automation go through and filter. And so that's what we'll go through and show here momentarily. So if they have not already ran through, then it's going to continue the process. We're going to delete that module. We're then going to go through, add in OpenAI, and we're going to dive into this in just a sec. And we're going to try to make sure it formats the name, and then we'll have it go through and format the company name. So let's see this real quick. Well, step 1, we need to go to OpenAI. If you're not logged in already, scroll all the way down to the bottom, API login. Click API, right? And then we're gonna go to API keys. You'll hit a new secret key, right? Test key. I'm gonna just do read only for this example, right? Create key, copy this key, bring it over here, and then you can use it as necessary. The second option is once you know you've connected it, you can come here, hit OpenAI. We'll hit this, we'll hit add, and this is where you copy and paste your OpenAI key, and then you go and capture your organization key which it has been a second since I've had to do that for some reason. Let's see here. Here, profile, user API keys. And then we're going to go through. We're going to go through here and then grab the organization ID, right? So take your organization ID under general and then go from there. By the way, I'm deleting the OpenAI here account. So if you end up wanting to use this, I wish you best of luck because it will not be available. So we have our API key. We'll drop in our organization ID key here, and then we'll be able to open this up. So now we have our connection. We then want to use OpenAI to create a completion. Now I want to talk about something really quick that's really important, and that is going to be, I'm going to move myself back over here, is going to be the use of the correct model. Nowadays, I would really say keep an eye on the cost because you probably can use the most recent system, which is GPT-4o. Super fast, super cost effective, and super easy to use once you get everything set up. So you've associated your ChatGPT 4 account or your setup here. Now we want to move into the curation of the prompts. So a really important thing around using AI, specifically in this instance, is with Make, we're going to go through and do little inputs where we focus on giving the system a role in association with something, and then we're going to go through and then give it a input that the user is going to request, an example output that we would like to see from the assistant, as in the AI, and then we do that a handful of times, and then we send in our actual request. And so you'll see that structure consistently done here, probably through a lot of the videos that I present around Make automations and also using OpenAI, but also especially throughout this setup here. So we have system. As you need to see here, we're going to say you're a helpful and intelligent writing assistant. And then we're going to go into the user input, where we're going to simply go and say user. We want it to format the name so it's proper, remove emojis if present, fix capitalization, and export as JSON. The reason we want to use JSON is a lot of computer-based systems just process that data more efficiently when it's imported as JSON. And so by doing so, you can ensure that you're going to actually have the data properly formatted. Now, while you and I may not read JSON as easily, thankfully, it's not very hard to read. And actually, by the end of this, you'll probably start getting a pretty good gist of how to use it. So then we go through, we're going to give it another user input. We want to say, hey, here's an example. Like, just imagine this isn't in the Excel sheet, right? Jody, I can't say that properly, Wolfington. And then we say, hey, this is you. You're the assistant, the AI. I want you to come back with this output. And this is so important because if you don't do this, you're going to end up just getting a lot of these. And then when you go to do cold outbounding, it's going to be Jody, whatever, however you say their name. It's not going to feel authentic. It's definitely going to feel fake. It's going to feel like you didn't do anything and you just threw them into a cold outbound ecosystem, right? But we don't want to do that. We want it to feel personal. So then we're going to do this again. We're going to keep showing different variations. Here's our user input. Here's all these extra stuff. We want to say, hey, I don't give a shit about all this extra stuff. Then we got another one. Hey, it's all caps. Change it. Put it like this, right? Then we have another one. It's got emojis. I need you to just show me Jason Bourne. And then finally, we've got 3, 4, 5 inputs of what it should come in from, how it should come in, and then how it should be put out from the AI. Now we're like, hey, look at this sheet. Look for the row. As you see, we have the name. Take name, column, column C, and put it here. So I then want you to take the data from column C, actually it's here, column C, and then clean it up. So that's exactly what we do. And then we hit OK. and then it's going to run through. Then we're going to go through and do the same thing for companies. Literally the same process. All we want to do is just make sure that the company name has been formatted as best as possible. You'll see why here in just a moment. But we want to go through here, show an example, show an output. As you see, we put the names together, example, output, so on and so forth, right? And then we go through, do the same thing, just so you see at the bottom here. We're going to then go through. We have a bunch of examples in this one. I want it to take company name if available, otherwise their job, so that way we can have a high chance of pulling it in. As you see here, we wanted to try to take company name or the job. You'll see, scroll all the way up to the top as an example so I can present to you. Here's their job. It says CTO at target company. But as you see here, sometimes these names don't come in for company name, but you see it says Dolite. So we want to actually grab that so that way when we go to clean it, we can re-import this data in our final sheet saying Dolite. Amazing, right? Because that way we know that the data is going to be accurate, it's going to be clean, and then we use that for our next thing. We have a much higher chance of getting high quality emails. So that's all that's done. Once you've done these things, we're then going to route. We're going to use a router. It's important to use this router because we want to have a couple basic if-then statements. Now, this router will force it to only go one way or another. It cannot be both directions, which is why we want to make sure we put a naming convention here so we understand what is going on. So if that company name exists, right, if the column H has been filled, we then want to just send them down this route, right? And then if the company name does not exist, we're then going to then go through, update that row with this data, right? And then go through the same process. So now let's look at all these goodies here, right? As you see here, it's basically the same structure. It's just reorganized. So we'll focus on one and then you'll quickly understand the other one. So we're going to look at this one. What we got to do is we first hit add. Actually, my bad, it's right here. It was just overshadowed. We hit tools. We then can go through and set multiple variables. And we can just sort of dump it in here, right? It's not super difficult. Click it, connect it. Don't need to connect it here because I've already got one connected, so I can click and open it. So what we want to do is create variables that match the data sets here. First name, last name, company name, what have you. As you see here, these are full name, first name, company name, job, title, profile URL, profile picture, location, and so on and so forth. One thing you want to keep an eye on here is the first letter is not capitalized. It's lowercase. The second word here, if present, is capitalized. Now, this is just a super basic formatting that you can keep in mind. It's pretty commonly used in APIs. And so we want to then make sure that this information is used correctly. So I want to go through here, and this is a platform called Email Finder. Now, this is the platform you're probably going to want to use for validating emails. So that's what these variables are prepping us for. Now I'll show you here in just a second. But again, we just went through the process of formatting the name, formatting the company name of the leads that we found on LinkedIn. And we created a variable. Now these sets of variables are specifically adjusted, as you see, lowercase first name, uppercase on the name itself. So that way, when we go to send data into any email finder, we are able to get proper responses back. So again, I got to show you this, but I'll have to change all of this after I post this. But we want to go through, push in the API, and you can grab this by simply creating your account, hitting OpenAI, updating this, and then you'll be able to capture your API key. So you'll copy this key, you'll come here, and you're going to then be posting data. Why? Because you're pushing it somewhere. Think of, you're taking a Post-it note and you're putting it on the wall, right? You have to do something. You're taking it somewhere versus receiving, getting information. It's a nice, easy way of trying to think about it. So we'll copy this, api.anymailfinder.com, and you'll see it's pretty consistent. Like, we don't have to change anything here. We then do authorization. Often an API is going to require you to authorize the use of something with a bearer code. And you usually put this physically in here with a little bit of space, and then you put in your API key, right? And then we'll go into this next one here. We're going to come back to this so that way you understand the full concept, but we'll be calling this webhook here, right? That's what this webhook is. And we'll dive into that in a second. But what's more important here is these top couple sections. We've got our API key. We then come down here to the bottom. We go and we want a raw body type. We want JSON. As we've said before, we're following with the JSON format. We then want to go through and put in all of the following data. What's important here by putting in this data is that it's then going to be able to be sent over to this one, so that we can further do enrichment or use these data or use these fields to push more variables when it comes to, oh, I want to analyze someone based on their profile picture or their title or their location or their name or their job, what have you, right? So that's exactly what we're seeing here. So again, this is JSON format. If you're looking to do something just like this, again, it's pretty simple. You just come in here. The basic structure is this, put in the name of variable, right? And then we put that again, and then we got little double dots, and then we can call the data set. Now, again, in this instance, I wanted to use existing variables that will align to the data that's coming in from here. So that way it matches what the API is requesting. So then we go through, we hit OK. And then once this is done, it's going to go through and update the row. So that way it says, hey, it's been ran, right? That's all this final one here is doing. So it's then going to go, hey, spreadsheet ID, table containers, contains the row that we called. And then we scroll all the way down, and it simply just updates the word yes. So that way, we know all the way over here that it's ran through. So that way it checks it, make sure it doesn't go back through and keep updating with the same lead. I have seen that happen when you're troubleshooting, and then you end up you're like, why did I just spend all these credits just running for the same lead, right? That's what we'll use this measure in place to help prevent. So then the similar setup here, it's already, we're going through, we're updating their name in this instance. So instead of just going through and enriching the email, we then go through and we're going to update the name of the company with better data. And then we're going to use the same tools, the same variables, right, as we've done before. And then we're going to go through and send that same stuff over. And hold on here. I got to get some more water. Go through here. Same setup, send it over, and then we push that data through. Then, here's what's the great part. If these emails are verified, it then gets sent over here as a webhook. Now, how do we create this webhook? Well, it's pretty simple. We just go here, search up webhooks, right? Click built-in, create a custom webhook, and then it's come down here. And then you can simply just go through and hit the add process. If you don't have any IP restrictions, you can hit save. And then what's going to happen is you're going to have this webhook. You'll end up having this, and all you got to do is hit copy. So you'll copy it. Then we're going to come back to the second automation. Go to either of these, well, really both of these. We're going to hit item. Hit here. We're going to hit item 2, so we'll add another header, right? And we'll put in x-webhook URL, and then we're simply going to copy and paste the webhook that we're using here. So then what's basically happening is if the data gets sent through, it gets registered as a positive code saying, hey, it went through, it's 200, it's perfect. Then this automation starts. Now we're going to reorganize that for us. And so this here is going to be the sort of the final piece to unlocking the whole puzzle, and then we'll show it in action pretty quickly. So once we go in here, we got this, and all this is doing again is it's pulling in the data. So as you see here, it's waiting to receive data. We can run once, just so you see an example of this. Oh yeah, there we go. Cool. So company name does not exist, comes through, boom. Have it run through, boom, it's sending through the data. And then as you see here, it's stopped on a filter, which is good actually. It prevents us from spending more on something that we didn't need, right? Lead not found, as in the data was maybe not clean, so we didn't need to push it through. So anyways, we'll go through and I'll show you this. I'll do it at a scale so that way you can actually get an eye on how this would work when we're filtering through thousands of leads, right? So again, we have our webhook. We then go, if the email is valid, right? Email registered as success, right? That's what you see here. We then see if success equals true, right? You just type this in and then you say if equal to lowercase true, then it moves forward. So then we take the variable of our instantly account. This is where we start pushing into instantly. Again, create our instantly account, go to settings, we come over here, we go to account. Oh, my bad. Here we go. And then we generate an instantly API key. So we hit apps, copy key, or generate a new one. We take that, we paste it here. Now, why did we put this at the very beginning? It might seem a little bit confusing, but basically what I'm saying, what we want to tell it is that, hey, if the email is valid, I want you to load up instantly, validate that we have the account, so that way I can then go and pull this information in, right? Because it's nice to be able to have the variable, have a variable here I can just push into other pieces in the future. And so that's essentially what we're doing here. So we have the instantly API key. We then see we have the campaign, right? I'll show you where we get this. So this code right here, because you see we got the equal sign. That is this. Let's see here. I'm gonna actually go here and show you specifically. Outreach. Here is the specific piece, right? So it's got phantoms, specific code, right? Specific code. Where are you? And if we want to go through and send it out to them, give me just a moment. So we want to pull in that specific, oh, my bad, I'm looking at Phantom Buster. I was like, it threw me off for half a sec. So here's the specific one, right? So under instantly, we have campaign, we have the code between here and the URL. We then copy and paste it here. And then you see this little and sign. We say, and equal this email. So the email that we just validated that was true, we're going to then go through and push it into instantly itself. So that way it adds it to our leads list here. Then we want to we're getting data and then sending it in, right? So we're getting it, we're requesting it in JSON format, being pretty consistent. Then we're going to go through and do all the extra fun goodies here. So this is the fun part in my opinion, which I really like. Really, honestly, I like all of this, but more specifically diving into how we're going to help personalize this. So if we go to LinkedIn real quick and you look at someone's account, we have a bunch of different unique identifiers of the person, right? We have their URL, the images in here, the description they have underneath of them, their name, their stuff that they've done, their posts, their activity, their title, the company they're working with, so on and so forth. There's a lot of little pieces here. And one of them that's also really cool here is being able to open image in new tab. So one of the really cool things about AI is its ability to process data in a bunch of different ways and then use that data to then curate some really cool outputs. One of which is actually being able to process the images of the LinkedIn profiles and then curating unique outputs. Example, if we see this here, we could run it through and it might be like, hey, you're probably the sharpest person I've seen in the feed all day. I just had to reach out. And that might be a response that we could use it as to help start a conversation, and so on and so forth, right? We'll go through and show some of the output examples that I've been using. So how does this work? Again, as I showed you for the second automation of our 3-step process here, we use our connection with ChatGPT. We then use the correct model that we want to use. I used ChatGPT 4.0 in this instance. You might be using a better one if you're looking at this years down the line. Step 1, we're associating it to system. We are saying, hey, you are a helpful, intelligent writing assistant. We're then saying, hey, I want to give you an example input. So I'm saying, hey, this is an example of me. Write a personalized icebreaker to be used in a cold email. Use the provided LinkedIn profile and added info. Be succinct and casual. Use a Spartan tone of voice. Respond in JSON. And end message with, I figured I'd reach out. I just added this as a unique modifier. We don't have to have it, but you can play around with it. I just like this as a nice subtle adjustment to what maybe I would normally push out. And so far, it's actually been doing pretty well. Again, when we were looking at the data here in terms of some analytics, 52% open read must be doing pretty well given the consistent influx we're getting, right? So here is what we're doing. Again, we're going to take that JSON format. And again, I know it might seem a little confusing at first, but it's really not too bad. Remember, just lowercase, then uppercase is how I like to think about it for everyone. If I'm trying to teach people very generously how to play around with it. There's also really good tutorials out there to teach you JSON format and Node.js and a bunch of other things. But if you're going to copy and paste the structure we're using in this, simply take this, replace the person's full name here, then put their first name here, put the company name in this one, their job, their title, the profile URL, and their location. Now, again, this one, as you see here, is user input. So we're clearly using this one because it's hard-coded, right? It's not going to change from Christopher to John or Sean or what have you. It's going to be just this. So we want to take this, and then I want it to give me this output. So we're saying, hey, assistant, AI, I need you to give me this type of output. And so it says, it's going to output it in JSON format. Again, this is super important to make sure that it aligns well with LinkedIn and email and any other ecosystem we want to just dump it into. So having it in one format and then having it get also formatted in the normal way that you and I would read it is the ideal direction. So that's what we have here. So we have icebreaker, that's the variable. Hey, Chris. And then we have these backslashes and ends. By doing 2 ends, it's actually like a shortcut to forcing things onto new lines. So it's sort of like a break. Right through your LinkedIn profile, loved what you also have. Love that you also have a love to help brands grow in personalization and AI. Would love to chat, get your thoughts on changes in the space, right? So like I put something unique. So this is for the email side. So it's using a comparison or a tie-in to the LinkedIn account, which is nice because now when people click on this and they open it, they are likely to be more receptive to the LinkedIn outbound messages because I already said that's where I found them. So they don't have to reply back and be like, where the did you find me? Well, I found you on LinkedIn and this is why I reached out. And so far, it's a great way to start a conversation. So then we're going to go through and do the same thing. We're going to give it a couple other examples. ask for an output. And then we're going to go through and be like, hey, you've seen enough. Do the real thing. So where we get this input. So you see webhooks, right? And it has the same data here. It's just in red now, is what we had done over here. As you see here, we got a good amount here running through. But we have, I'm going to stop this. You should see it's been running. I totally forgot that it's been running. But we have a bunch of these things, right? So we have these fields. And then, yes, that's right. I wanted to show you this. So you have the fields, right? Company name, full name, last name, job, title, profile picture, location. And then if we see here, company name, full name, first name, job, title, profile URL, profile picture, and location. Same stuff. It's just pulling that same data, nice and easy, using the JSON format. And then we do the same thing over here with the LinkedIn icebreaker, right? So again, we want to make both of these different because it's a little bit different in the context of who we're talking to, or at least the placement we are communicating on, right? So again, duplicate this same process. We want to use a system. We then want to tell it roughly the same type of piece. Instead of an email, all right, it's LinkedIn message. So we're going to take that same data. We don't have to change it, but we want to go through and change the example output, right? Instead of, hey, I found you on LinkedIn, it's, I read through your profile and loved that you also do the same thing, blah, 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 right? Same message, boom, boom, right? Instead of email, it's now on LinkedIn. We just did a quick adjustment to align to the placement that we're on. And so we did that again. And then we go through and request it to send us the output, right? So that's what both of these will do. So now moving forward, every time we get a new line of data, it's then going to then curate that, create an output, and then you will see it here as an example. We'll actually look at these examples here in just a moment. What we have here now is the last 4 key steps before we really show everything in action one more time, is we're parsing this JSON format. So as you see here, it's in JSON format. We want to go through and parse that data so that way it's actually able to be put in just plain text. Well, you might be thinking, well, why'd you put it in JSON format in the first place? Again, we need JSON format for us to have the ability to very easily import it into most systems. However, we also want the text format in the event that that ends up being the best solution for the platform. So we want to think ahead of time, have both options available. So if we need one or the other, we can already just send it right over, right? So that's exactly what we're doing. So this first one here is just connecting to our LinkedIn icebreaker, parsing it, right? We just come down here, we hit parse, or we can hit JSON, and then we want it to come down here to parse JSON. And then we can just say, all right, what do I want to parse? Well, we want to go to choices, we want to go to message, and we want to go to content, so that way we're pulling the correct data set in here. And then we're going to do the same thing for the email one. Once that's done, we then send all of this data to a specified spreadsheet, similar process that we've talked about in the other ones. We're going to go through, re-input all of the data that we want to have: first name, last name, email, job, title, company, profile URL, profile picture, location, the general information here, right? And then we want to put in the icebreakers, the JSON formatted icebreakers. And then finally, we take this data and we push it into Instantly, right? So we then want to push as much of this data as we can into Instantly. And so that way it is then able to use this information in our outbounding. Okay, cool. So this is the quick run through. We've done the whole thing. I'm now going to rerun this. Actually, I'm going to get out of here. Discard changes. This is running. So as you see here, we've got a bunch of successes coming through. Let's just watch this as it runs through, right? So the filters currently, hey, if it hits something, then it ain't going to waste its time. That's essentially what it's working through, right? And so it's working through there. We then have these, right? And as you see here, it's just cranking out tons and tons and tons of data, right? And so on and so forth. So I'm going to pause this for right now. And I'm going to stop this one. Force stop. Off. Let's just reload this real quick. Off. There we go. It's officially off. Okay, so now we get to go to do the fun stuff. So we had all these things get imported into here. We have our campaign. As you see here, we've got all leads in here now, right? Wait, well, let's reload this one more time. And then we're going to go and just show how I'm going to show you how to create a campaign. So once you've created your Instantly account, we're going to hit add new, my campaign. And as you see here, we have that unique URL for this specific campaign. So we'd just be able to drop that in over here. And then we're going to go through and then the leads will be able to start dumping in. So then we want to go over to sequences. Well, sequences in the area that we're going to actually go through and put together our emails, right? We'll want to put in maybe our templates. What's really cool with Instantly is it's got a bunch of existing email templates. So if you're just using any of these, right, I'm just giving you an example. Hey, first name, right? Your LinkedIn was impressive. I want to reach out to you directly. That one's okay. We're going to do our one, which is way better. Oh yeah, we got to come over here because I've not sent the data into it. So as you see here, here's an example of what I put together, and it's been doing pretty well for me. So we have Icebreaker, and I'll show you what Icebreaker really connects to in a moment. It says, by the way, build a system for companies like X that generates 15 plus sales appointments a month without spending a cent on ads, so on and so forth, right? I also like to do this little one that says sent from my iPhone. And that way, if it formats weird or if it just looks weird, people seem to trust a little bit more because it says that it came from the iPhone. Looks like, you know, I was thumbing away and just sent it to them rather than actually using a tool to reach out to them. So how Icebreaker here, that is this JSON piece, right? So we had these icebreakers that we created, which again, these unique outputs that we generated for the people. We now that we have this in here, let's dive into what those look like, right? And so we have the JSON format of that. That is insanely small, right? It's like, hey, Icebreaker. Hey, Jason, I saw your profile on LinkedIn. Notice you're leading the Magnolia Technology Consulting. It's impressive how you're driving innovation technology and tech consulting. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the landscape and how navigating it. Figured I'd reach out, right? So this is auto magically put here, and then it says, by the way, I built a system to do XYZ thing for exact business that you're working for, or built, or created, or lead, or manage, what have you. Are you interested, right? And so then it sets up a follow-up to them. And then we have this similar process. If we scroll up here, so I can show you this, we have our LinkedIn Icebreaker. So we go, same stuff, open it up. Hey, Craig, wrote your profile, admired your work in sales innovation, change management at Amend Consulting. I'd love to exchange insights on driving innovation and managing effectively in today's fast-paced environment. What's awesome is this right here, already good enough that you could just use just to get out in front of people, right? How does this work, though? So what we'll do is you create your connection. Well, you create your campaign on Phantom Buster. We then go through and I'm going to go through and hit setup. We have the LinkedIn search URL that we're using. We're connecting to our LinkedIn account. We're then going to do a behavior. So, we can go through, we want to just let it send as much as it can. And then we're going to go through and do the advanced settings, right? So this is the setup. This is how we pulled the LinkedIn the search results for the leads. Then we're going to do the outreach. This is what I wanted to show you. So we hit setup. The first step here, right? We want the profiles that we're going to invite, which are the ones in our master list, so our approved list that has the icebreakers. We're going to then say, hey, it's here. Look for the name of the column containing what profile? Profile URL, right? We want it to find this profile URL because if it doesn't exist, well, we can't get out in front of them, right? I mean, we can't find them on LinkedIn. So we take that, if that exists, send them a connection request, right? We don't need to have an invitation message. In fact, if you add an invitation message, I would usually say it's probably not going to do well because people are like, oh, this person's immediately trying to sell me some shit. And then you go through, send your follow-up message. Now, to me, I've just simply gone with the following route, right? Schedule a first follow-up message. After that first day of them sending connection request, don't do it immediately, do it the following day. And then you send in your icebreaker. So as you see here, it just says LinkedIn icebreaker, no spaces, and I can actually just call it here. And that's because it's connecting to that Google Sheet and it's already in the row. It makes it super easy. So then I just put my basic little unique piece there. It says best Cole. And then if they don't reply, I go and then I take that same thing I used on Instantly, and then I just simply put it here as my follow-up on the following day. Be like, hey, by the way, I built out the system, does this blah, 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 right? And it does a similar piece. So that's really the whole process here in the end. And this system that I've been able to use has been able to generate me pretty consistent business. Again, I've been averaging roughly 15 calls a month, which has been a great way for me to go through and build out the business, establish some really good relationships, and not have to rely on spending a bunch of money on advertising. Also, not having to pay for employees to further streamline and prevent me from having to incur added costs in areas where it's not necessary. In fact, if anything, I'd love to be able to have more highly technical people on my team prior to focusing on sales. I really liked being able to connect with everyone in my own conversations, right? So this is the whole setup. Now let's do a quick version of it, just so you see again. So how it'd work is we'd have this section on, right? It's going to go through, it searches for these things. If they exist, then it sends them here. Once that data's been updated, I got to reload this page. The data starts getting pushed through here. If any of these exist, if the company name exists and all this stuff, right, goes through, starts formatting the data. If the email is valid, and then goes through and pushes them through this whole process. And then finally, we'll come over here into Instantly, and it will add them as a lead into the campaign. All right. I hope this helps. If you have any other questions, feel free to put them down in the comment section down below. I really hope this has been helpful to you. And if you'd like to just use the exact systems I have, let me know. I'll try to do my best to put it in the little description below. And yeah, I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll see you in the next video.